So, flexible dieting. The goal of this is to achieve a consistent calorie deficit, which would be 350 to 500 calories a day, kind of, on average. That's the key thing. Um, and so not just the calorie intake is on average over the week or the month, and we'll talk about that in a second. But also we'll talk about what you eat. Okay, so it's important that you're eating the right foods, how much you eat, and when you eat. They're the three ways we can manage your calorie intake to make it more flexible. And there's different ways of working on this and achieving this calorie deficit. Now, often you don't even have to count the calories to achieve the calorie deficit. You can just make sure you're eating the right foods, i.e. the high protein, high water, high fiber foods, and you'll achieve that calorie deficit quite easily without counting the calories. So sometimes it's just a case of, okay, I know when I'm kind of on plan and when I'm off plan. So how do we manipulate calories via what you eat? High protein, high fiber, high water based foods. If you need to have meal replacements, then that's okay, like the smoothie for breakfast with the protein in. But this is where some people do find that having, say, a protein shake for lunch or dinner works really well for them, because they don't have to think about it so much. And this is where we're quite flexible with our approach, because if you've actually found that you've succeeded before with a kind of, whether it's a herbal life or a slim fast or whatever, if you've succeeded before with that, then there's no reason you won't succeed again with that. Now, there are downsides to those programs, which we'll hope to help you to overcome, in terms of, let's make sure that the meals that you do eat, if you're having like one or two meals a day and one or two shakes a day, making sure that the meals you're having are nutritious and are in line with what we recommend. But you could fit in like a meal replacement. So we do have a few members that just say, you know what, I just love to have a smoothie for breakfast. I'll have a regular lunch and I'll have a shake for my evening meal as well. And it's like, okay, fine. If that works for you, because it means you don't have to think about it and it's easy to manage, then we'll support you with it. But what we're trying to do is have foods that fill you up. And we're trying to have a consciousness of healthy choices and avoiding what we call non-foods. Okay, so your processed foods and your highly refined sugary foods and things like that. Okay, how much you eat. So if you want to count the calories, you can use MyFitnessPal, is what we recommend to count your calories through the day. So this is a rule of thumb, and our body fat machine works out your calorie intake that we'd suggest. So daily it would be, let's say, 1,500 calories a day. So what that would work out weekly is 10,500 calories a week. So for example, this is, if you've seen the 5-2 diet, you could say, right, okay, so Monday I'll have 1,500 calories, Tuesday I'll have 800, Wednesday I'll have 1,500, Thursday I'll have 800, Friday I'll have 1,500, and then the weekends I'll have the extra calories from the Tuesday and Thursday. I'm going to have those extra calories on the weekend. So that's a little bit of a version, a modification of the 5-2 approach. But you can see then it allows you to have those kind of, I wouldn't like to call them binges, but allows you to have those kind of higher calorie days because of the days where you've had less. Now, if you need to count the calories, then that's fine. I don't need to count the calories with this. I just reduce it in terms of my meals, for example. So sometimes I'll just, if I know that I've had a couple of days where I've overconsumed, on one of the days in the week, I'll kind of have my breakfast, have my lunch. I'll probably try and have a late breakfast and a late lunch, and then just not have my evening meal. And that's just one way of, I've reduced by about 500 calories, 600 calories by doing that. And then, that makes up for the 500 or 600 extra calories that I may have had another time. But because my meals are always low calorie anyway, in terms of, protein and veg, etc., when I'm on, basically most days, I don't need to count the calories in that. I just need to know, okay, if I've gone off my plan a little bit at the weekend, maybe I've had a dessert or I've had some chocolate or something like that, then all my meals in the week are absolutely fine. They're probably for me, it's probably about 16 or 1,800 calories. So therefore, just skipping one takes me down and offsets the weekend, for example. The other way is monthly. So this could encompass like a holiday. When we talk about having diet breaks, this is why this kind of works sometimes. So 10,500 calories a week would be my focus, but that could be 10,500 week 1 of the month. Week 2 of the month, I could drop it down and go for 7,500, which means I've earned myself an extra 3,000. So maybe I'm on holiday the next week, or maybe it's Christmas, or maybe it's a birthday week, and actually have 13,500 that week, and then I'll go back to the 10,500. So all of these ways of doing it, guys, whether you follow the exact same number of calories every day, whether you follow the exact same number of calories every week, or you fluctuate through the weeks, you will still achieve that calorie deficit and you will still achieve that weight loss. But you must be consistent in terms of making sure that at the end of that month, you've consumed that average calorie deficit to see the weight loss that you need. So when you eat is another way of manipulating these calories. So you may have heard of intermittent fasting, and I've touched on this in the last section where I talked about how if I have overconsumed, sometimes I will just skip the meal. Now that's a version of what we call intermittent fasting, which means that you have a bigger window of not eating. Now essentially it means that you might have just 2 meals a day rather than 3 meals a day. So for example, someone that is intermittent fasting, they might have a late breakfast or brunch. So they might eat first in the day at like 11 or 12 o'clock. And then they'll actually get through to like 6 or 7 o'clock, maybe a few teas or coffees in the middle, but not really much. They get to 6 or 7 o'clock and then they have their evening meal, and that's it basically. Hopefully they don't, but they might snack a little bit in the middle of that with maybe some fruit or something. But essentially they have 2 relatively substantial meals, a little bit later and a little in the morning and a little bit earlier in the evening, and then nothing outside of that window. But between the breakfast and the evening meal, if they want to have a bit of a snack or whatever, then that works. It only works well though, guys, if you are consistent with your meals. So when fasting doesn't work is when you skip breakfast or have a late breakfast, but you get so hungry that you're desperate for cake or biscuits and you can't resist. If doing fasting saps your willpower, it's not the best approach for you, basically. Where it is a really good approach is if you're someone that isn't bothered about breakfast, and trainers say, oh, you've got to have breakfast, it's the most important thing, blah, blah, blah. Not really. If you're not bothered about breakfast, don't worry about it. Fasting is a great way of achieving that because you don't need to have the breakfast. You have the later breakfast or brunch, or even you might just get through to lunch. You might just have a lunch at like 12 or 1 o'clock and then an evening meal at 6 or 7, and that's fine. And you can see, hopefully, guys, that if this suits your metabolism quite well, naturally, you're having less calories. Okay, so another way of doing it is the 5-2, which I talked about before. And regardless of the fasting thing, you could just say, well, actually, I don't feel I need to eat 3 meals a day, so actually I'm just going to have 2 meals a day. That's just a simple way of reducing your calories. Now, you could do that kind of reactively in terms of if you've overindulged, you might just have less meals, a couple of other days in the week, or it might be proactively where it's just a thing that you do. And we do find with these things that quite often just doing it twice a week actually works really well. So you might do the fasting thing like every day if that kind of suits you and works well for you, that's fine. Or you might just do it a couple of times a week, just to allow yourself a little bit more of the indulgences a couple of other times in the week. So the other thing is, what we always do recommend is avoid eating late at night, because that's a simple way of over-consuming calories. You will always tend to over-consume calories when you eat late at night. Okay, so that's it, guys. So different options and focuses for you to look at. I'll do a printout of each one for you to read through, and we'll have a little chat about each one in turn and see how we go.